So recently, Universal Studios announced one of the biggest closures we've seen in years, shutting down 5 attractions in an area of Universal Studios Florida that has been on the chopping block for years, but I personally never thought I'd actually see it get replaced. Fievel's Playland, Shrek's Swamp Meet and Greet, DreamWorks Destination, Woody Woodpecker's Nut House Coaster, and Curious George Goes to Town are all closing in January 2023 to make way for new family entertainment at the park. While this area has been begging for an update for years and wasn't very popular, this closure is still big in the short term and the long term for the resort, and I wanted to talk about it. I normally don't hop on news, but I think with something like this, I wanted to throw my hat in the speculation ring about the fate of Kidzone after this big closure, and I wanted to share my thoughts with you all. So let's talk about the potential future of Woody Woodpecker's Kidzone at Universal Studios Florida. Before we talk about what's next though, I wanted to specify what Kidzone is. Located in the back of Universal Studios between Hollywood Boulevard and Springfield, this rethemed land formally opened in 1999 as a way to integrate some popular children's animation into the park, specifically taking over the land known as Expo Center and replacing the Hard Rock Cafe and the Psycho House set. However, 2 attractions from Expo Center that would remain in Kidzone are Animal Actors and E.T. Adventure. And this leads me to my first interesting theory about this retheme, or should I say rebuild. See, the parameters for this closure are very interesting, as they're only closing attractions behind Animal Actors and E.T. For those who don't know, E.T. Adventure, Universal's only remaining opening day attraction, is legally required to stick around in the park due to contracts with Steven Spielberg. This deal has basically been the challenge with tackling a Kidzone retheme for years. And I'm gonna talk more about E.T. in this video later, don't you worry, but I think they're gonna take the approach they took with Kidzone in the first place, completely demolishing everything behind Animal Actors and E.T. to have a clean slate for whatever they want to add, while still leaving the E.T. theming. And honestly, in the case of Animal Actors, I could see Universal waiting to make a move until the fate of The Simpsons is sealed, because the rights for The Simpsons property when it comes to the theme parks is coming up in a few years, and a lot of people have been questioning whether The Simpsons rights are going to be reinstated at Universal. So in the case of Universal losing The Simpsons, they may use Animal Actors to add to whatever potential retheme they may do over there. There's also the DreamWorks integration, which has taken over in the form of different overlays to the defunct Barney A Day in the Park show. The DreamWorks Destination, which opened last year, was a simple use of the space as a meet and greet. However, the Shrek meet and greet was a fairly recent addition, arriving only a few months ago. Now, it would seem weird if Universal were to shut down 2 of their more popular and recent character meet and greets if all they were doing were facelifts and retheming and updating the existing structures. While at the time it seemed like Shrek and Donkey were moving to Kidzone permanently, it, like DreamWorks Destination, were always destined to close, eventually being replaced with something else. And I think for these reasons, Universal will be in the perfect position with a solid plot of land that'll allow them to completely revitalize the area, cutting ties with what was. Now, they have a sizable plot of land and a promise for new family entertainment. And while I mentioned them likely using the space for a new land with new attractions and themed experiences, I'm not expecting anything massive. Because honestly, they don't have the space nor the need. What could we be seeing IP-wise? This doesn't need to be the most premier property as long as it can fill the void of family rides and entertainment found at Universal Studios Florida especially. And right now I have 3. Probably the least likely, but one I would enjoy a lot is a land themed to Secret Life of Pets. This is an Illumination property, so it is owned in-house by Universal, and Universal Studios Hollywood just got a really fun family dark ride with Off the Leash last year, and due to spatial constraints, their Pets Place land isn't really what it could be. However, with the added space of Kidzone, a version of the Off the Leash ride could fit in nicely with the space while having some room for possibly a gift shop and a meet and greet using the puppet pets they have roaming the parks now. However, this is the least likely to happen as thematically, 2 New York sections on opposite sides of the park don't really make a lot of sense, and Secret Life of Pets doesn't really need a whole land, but there's lots of potential there if they want to explore that in a future space. The second one has been rumored for many years, and with Super Nintendo World right around the corner, some have been suspecting that Pokemon will take over Kidzone. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a ride where you capture Pokemon or the chance to get a picture with Pikachu? However, while Pokemon has a lot of potential for unique ride formats, interactivity, and memorable experiences, I think it has too much potential for this small of a space. While the back half of the Kidzone has room, it's not giant, and I feel like doing this would compress any and all ideas for a Pokemon Land Universal could cook up in their parks. Plus, I feel like Pokemon could do really well in somewhere like Islands of Adventure if a certain Toon Lagoon needed a little bit of a refresh. However, why complicate things when you already have recognizable animated characters in your parks, and even in the Kidzone that we already have? The potential for any given DreamWorks land to fit in this area is a given. It's insane. Whether it's Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, etc., there are so many unique franchises in the DreamWorks bubble that can make for a really immersive theme park land with one or more signature attractions. However, the one I think is perfect regarding the space and popularity factor is Trolls. Trolls are cute. They bring a lot of energy whenever they're featured throughout the park right now, and are relevant enough to warrant a theme park land at this moment. And considering the space, there's definitely room for a Trolls dark ride of sorts, or a couple highly themed flat rides. And all the while, there can be plenty of room for wandering meet and greets and dance parties. While I'll admit Trolls are not my favorite DreamWorks characters, that goes to Kung Fu Panda, they are popular with kids and families, which is the target demographic here. And there is a lot of potential with theming that wouldn't be too hard to execute. The surrounding area is wrapped in trees already, and the plot of land cuts off at a very specific point where it might be easy to add a themed entrance similar to something like Galaxy's Edge or Diagon Alley. So because of this, the magical forest environment wouldn't be too hard to perfect here. Plus, it's something that contrasts with basically any other land in Universal Orlando as a whole, specifically in studios. Now, as I'm saying this kind of does sound like a large-scale, almost epic universe offering in its style. And honestly, a land like this could be a way to bring the level of quality that's going to be coming in the Lands and Epic universe to some areas of Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure that need that update. And on the topic of raising quality across the resort, there are a few changes coming to the current attractions that are staying that are kind of lining up with that. Because regardless of what goes back there in the new area, there needs to be a balance between the new flashy shiny attractions and the classics that haven't honestly gotten a really good update in like 2 decades. So this closure is affecting what's staying open as well as what's going away. While the back half of Kidzone is completely changing. As we mentioned, E.T. Adventure, SpongeBob SquarePants, Kidzone Pizza, and Animal Actors are all staying, and we've already begun seeing some changes at E.T. specifically. Recently, the Universal Orlando fan community has noticed a slight change in some of the smells found on ET, where the musky fragrance found in the queue has been replaced with another pine-scented one. However, I did not notice as much of a difference as it's fairly similar to the original smell, and most won't notice if at all. However, it's not just that smell, but a few new smells, such as a burning smell once you arrive on the green planet, that have been added. I've also personally noticed a few long broken animatronics finally getting fixed, as well as a few other sets looking possibly repainted. So I think ET, while it's not closing, is definitely getting some love so it can remain classic, but stand up against whatever new offerings may come behind it. So what does that mean for the others? Well, SpongeBob I think will stay just the same. SpongeBob characters and merchandise are extremely popular, and Universal doesn't have to change it for really any reason, especially if they're not concerned with thematic consistency in the front half of Kidzone. However, I think Kidzone Pizza may receive a retheme as well as a more regular schedule to work with the attendance of these new offerings. And by that I mean possibly just a new paint job and new signage. However, and just putting it out there, they could retheme it to the Krusty Krab pizza. I mean, the store's right there, and after all, it is the pizza for you and me. So we spent time talking about the more long-term effects of this closure. What about next year when it actually closes? Well, this being under construction really affects 2 major facets of Universal Studios Florida. With the majority of kid-friendly attractions being closed in the park, especially with the closure of Shrek 4D, as well as these Kidzone attractions, families are going to have to find ways to entertain their children while in the parks, as small children won't have much to do in this park until what's coming finally opens, and who knows when that will be. However, one good thing I will have to say about this closure and the construction process is that it's in the back of the park, so you're not going to be dealing with as much crowd management as you are in, let's say, Production Central, where the Shrek 4D construction is going on, where those walls do really block off a solid bit of area that is used for walking. However, unfortunately, it will mean a lot more walking for us HHN fans. Let me explain. Typically, 2 houses are featured in the parade buildings behind Kidzone, with one of these queues entering through part of the old Barney stage and another entering through the Curious George play area. Last year, of course, it was the Weekend After Hours Nightmare and Universal Monsters Legends Collide. And while this construction won't change the house locations, the entrances will have to either be located in between Cafe La Bamba and the Horror Makeup Show, or all the way in the middle of Springfield. And even once this expansion opens, the theming of the area may provide stipulations for HHN queues. While I don't see Universal retiring these buildings, as space is a hot commodity when it comes to HHN, the closure will add a unique dimension to the land during HHN, which usually has many food booths that rack up lots of traffic. However, maybe this will see the expansion of more HHN into the surrounding areas of the park. Kidzone closing extends beyond a few attractions going away. Not only are we losing basically a whole land in a park that is already full of construction with everything going on in Production Central, but also possibly the loss of Woody Woodpecker in the parks, who essentially was the cartoon mascot for Universal Studios and hosted the park's first ever roller coaster, which will be closing. However, Universal Orlando is in desperate need of new experiences catered to all ages, specifically small children that may not fulfill the height requirements of some of the other rides. So with that being said, there are so many opportunities for different types of attractions and themed experiences outside of attractions like meet and greets, shows, themed dining, anything, regardless of what the IP is. Honestly, I'm excited for the potential that Kidzone has, as I was never a big fan of the area. It's just not made for me, and really I just hope whatever Universal decides to add to this really adds to the park and gives the park that new immersive element that it really needs the most. But anyway, what do you think? What do you think could be replacing the back half of Kidzone? Maybe you are thinking of something that I didn't mention in this video. Leave it in the comments. I would love to read your thoughts about this big closure coming to Universal Studios Florida. And if you haven't already, consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. It truly means a lot, and it lets me know that you like this style of video. I really like speculating about the future of the theme park, so if you guys like that, again, like, subscribe, let me know. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate everyone who watches the video and engages with the video any kind, of course, and I will see you all next time, probably with another Universal video, maybe a Disney video, not sure, but regardless, I will see you all next time.